All right, and welcome to the 15th episode of the Online Network of Independent Learning Professionals. We have, almost went overboard there. We have Kirk Bowman today, who's going to talk to us about how to create happy customers and make more money, which I think is something that we're all interested in. In just a second, I'm going to mute everyone, just to make sure that there's not any background noise. Just like always, if you have any questions as Kirk is talking, then feel free to put that in the chat. And then Kirk, don't worry about, trying to navigate the chat as you're talking, unless that's something you like to do. I can definitely keep all the questions going for you and ask them at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And Kirk was actually, Ant is the one that invited Kirk to chat with us, and I just want to, send it over to Ant for a second, just to say, thank you, and then, why did you, recommend that we hear from Kirk?
Yeah, thanks, Patty. There was a couple of people on the call before it started, and you probably heard me talking to Kirk. Basically, I came across Kirk because of his podcast, which I first started listening to about 6 months ago, and I've been a sort of a captive listener to his podcast ever since, which I'm sure he'll talk more about. But it's been really, really interesting to me, learning all about value pricing. I just thought he'd be a brilliant guest. It's something that I've struggled with over the past 12 months, and really keen to hear his views about it, and then give him a good grilling afterwards with some questions. So looking forward to that part as well. So I'll pass it back to Patty. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Ant. Kirk, he's already sent questions over. Ant is really, he's been super looking forward to this one. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone, and then I'll unmute you in just a second, Kirk. So I'm going to do that. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so I've unmuted Kirk now, and so I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you. If you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, the podcast that you run, and we'll just jump right in.
Sure. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Make sure
Perfect.
It's working. So you'll just give me a verbal confirmation that the title slide is on the screen.
Yes. 4 steps to create happy customers and make more money. Love it. Yes.
So I've actually incorporated my bio into the presentation, so I'll keep it brief for right now, but I've been a software developer for over 20 years, and about 5 years ago, I changed my business model from hourly billing to value pricing. That led me to create the Art of Value to help other professionals make the same switch. And one of the primary ways I do that is through the Art of Value show, which is a weekly podcast. I think this week we shipped episode number 86. You can find that at artofvalue.com/show. So with that, we'll go ahead and dive in. As Patty and Ant mentioned, we are going to have a Q&A period, and I want to encourage you, when you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat area. Patty's going to moderate that for us. I want you to capture the thought when it comes, so that will, number one, free up your mind so that you can then concentrate on what else may come up, but also that other people can see those questions, and that may help generate more discussion. The purpose of the presentation is really to generate questions. That's really the way these things work. So as you can see, we're going to talk about 4 steps to create happy customers and make more money. A lot of people think that you can't do those two things at the same time, or at least that they are incongruent or in conflict. And we'll talk more about that. But I believe they're both completely aligned when you have a business model that aligns you with the customer. So first of all, I want to congratulate you for taking the time to learn. You're investing in yourself, and the best way you can do that is to turn off all your devices except the one you're using to watch this presentation. Put your phone in silent, turn off your tablet, turn off all distractions, give yourself permission to stay present for this hour. So my name is Kirk Bowman. I'm the founder of Art of Value, which is a consultancy to help people implement the business model called value pricing. And I'll define what that is a little bit later in our session. I'm also the host of the Art of Value Show, which is a weekly podcast. And I'm also a practicing fellow at VeraSage. If you go to verasage.com, that is a think tank for professional services, accountants, lawyers, etc. And I'm blessed to be a practicing fellow there, have been for about 4 or 5 years. Basically, what that means is I get access to some really smart people to ask my questions. I did this presentation about 2 months ago, and here's some feedback I got from one of the participants. This is from Crystal Smith at Shine Consulting. She simply said, based on the presentation, she thought she could earn 25 to 30% more per project and increase her overall earnings by 50% within a few months. I share that with you to say, I think the material we're going to cover can substantially change your business, and it's not just my opinion. So I want you to think about this question. Why are you here? There may be a variety of reasons. You may just be here to support Patty and Ant, but here are 3 possibilities. 1, you're working more than you should, and you'd like to change that. You'd actually like to work less or work the same amount, but increase your income. 2, you're making less than you want. You actually realize that you're working plenty, but you're not getting the return from what you're putting into it. And ultimately, if you're working more than you should and making less than you want, you may be sacrificing time with your family. Especially if you have children, they're only going to be around for a certain amount of time, and that goes faster than any of us want to admit. What are you going to learn? There's 4 things I want you to get out of our session. Number 1, I want to show you how to overcome the biggest obstacle to increasing your income. And it's probably not what you think it is. 2, I'm going to show you how to implement a paradigm shift, a mindset that makes 2x, 3x, or even more possible. And when I say 2 or 3x, I'm talking about your revenue, increasing it by 2 times, 3 times, or more. 3, I'm going to show you a very smart strategy that will allow you to increase the probability of a yes from a customer by 50%. It's simple math. And then 4, I'm going to show you how to create a higher price or how to charge a higher price and create a win-win scenario. Some people think that business is a poker game, that in order for one person to win, somebody else must lose. And that's not true. That is scarcity mentality. We want to operate from an abundance mentality, which says there's plenty for everybody, meaning the customer can win and you can win. So I want to tell you a little bit about my pricing story. I mentioned I'm a software developer. About 6 years ago, I was at an industry conference, and I actually organized and participated in a panel on billing and estimating practices. I took the position that hourly billing is the only way to do custom services. Everything we do is unique. We don't know how long it's going to take, and so the only fair way to do it is to just charge based on the time. There was another consultant on the panel who said something that was the catalyst for me making the switch. Jonathan Stark said, if you bill by the hour, there's an artificial limit on your income. And he's completely right. There's only so many hours you can bill in a day, week, or year. There's only so high that you can raise your rate. There is an income. And being an entrepreneur at heart, I've been an entrepreneur all my life, this haunted me. The idea that I was doing anything that would limit my income did not sit well. And it forced me to go out and study this business model called value pricing. I want to show you the results that I achieved through this business model. Now, the first year of my business, this would be the year that I made the decision to switch. So the revenue right here was really what I was already doing. So the first year I was doing about $400K in my consultancy. Second year, 1 year later, we had grown from 400 up to around 750. And then by the third year, we were at 1.2 million. So in a 2-year period, we 3x'd our revenue. There is a dark side to this. And of course, if you're a Star Wars fan like I am, you enjoyed the movie that came out at Christmas. When you bill by the hour, there are a few problems or issues. And this is just a summary. There are many more. I could do a whole session on the evils of the billable hour. But here's probably the biggest one. The customer's best interest is not aligned with your best interest. meaning when you charge by the hour, it's in the customer's best interest for it to take as few hours as possible so that they get a lower price. And by the way, that's okay because everybody wants to pay the lowest price. We want our resources to go as far as possible. But then on the other hand, as a provider, as a professional, you want more hours because it's higher revenue. Those two things are incongruent. And even if you're extremely ethical, you cannot explain away, you cannot dismiss this conflict of interest. Second, this is the one that really gets me. The faster you work, the less money you make. So wait, I get better at what I do and I make less. Again, that's another conflict of interest, where the first conflict of interest is external. This one's internal, but it's still a conflict. It also focuses on the wrong thing, meaning when you charge by the hour, you're focusing on inputs rather than outputs or the results. This cartoon says, I am billing, therefore I am. The idea that we create value just because we spend time on something is false. I've spent over a day, sometimes multiple days on something and scrapped it because it was, pardon me, crap. And then in 15 minutes, I've created 5 figures worth of value. It's not the inputs, it's the outputs. A lot of times people will ask me, what is your hourly rate? And my favorite answer is, I don't have one. And if you like that, I'd appreciate it if you'd tweet it and give credit to @ArtOfValue. But when somebody asks you, what is your hourly rate? Just simply say, I do not have one, and then pause and wait for them to say something. It's going to be a silent pause. It's going to feel uncomfortable. But if you speak first after you answer that question, you're going to lose an opportunity. Wait for the customer to say something. Now, I want to define some terms. Billing. This is what happens when you bill by the hour. You send an invoice after the work is done and you hope the customer pays it. Have any of you ever had the experience where you send an invoice and you're just praying the customer does not question the time entries? And by the way, customers question time entries because they don't understand what we do. It looks like magic. And so what we know creates high value, they think is worthless. And so we actually are sharing with them the wrong thing. We're putting their focus on the inputs instead of the outputs. Pricing is the opposite. With pricing, you determine the scope and price before the work is done so the customer can make a decision. The key word here is before. Pricing happens before the work, billing happens afterwards. Value pricing is using your knowledge and expertise to create a high ROI or return on investment for the customer and a high profit for yourself. Notice the word and. With value pricing, both things happen. Tim Dietrich is a good friend of mine. I've had him on my podcast twice. The first time I had him on the show, he came on to basically say, I tried value pricing and it doesn't work. Well, he decided to give it another shot. And so on episode 73, he came back and said, I love value pricing. It's changed my business. This is part of an email he sent me. He said, I love the work that I do for my clients. I enjoy the clients I'm doing it for, and it lets me do it in ways I feel good about. Notice all 3 of those benefits have nothing to do with the monetary side, but yet Tim will tell you he's making more money as well. So step 1, you must believe you create value. This is an internal step. I want to ask you another question. What is keeping you from reaching your business goal? And that business goal could be an income goal, a growth goal, a learning goal, whatever. Here are some possible answers. Number 1, you do not believe you create significant value. And if that's you, my goal is by the end of this session to dismiss that falsehood. You do not understand how you create value. I think this is probably most of us, if we're honest. We just don't understand how we create value. And so by exploring that, you then strengthen your belief. And then 3, you may believe that time is the value you sell to your customer. And hopefully I've already dispelled that myth when we talked about the dark side. It is human nature to doubt yourself. This is how we're wired. Now, I could do a whole hour on the reasons for that and get into a philosophical and, political discussion and so forth. But the bottom line is, it is natural for us to doubt ourselves. Just give yourself permission to say, okay, that's the way I am. But the flip side of that is, if you do not believe you create value, no one else will. It starts with you, and customers can smell fear. They can smell doubt. They can smell low confidence. And when they do, it's going to affect how the money conversation happens. Carrie Overrunner says, you will never outprice your self-image. And it is so true. Just remember, the first sale is always to yourself. Always to yourself. So you must believe you create value. Step 2, discover value from the customer's perspective. The key words here are customer's perspective. I'm interested in how they view value, not how I view it. So what do you usually talk about with your customer? Is it what you think the customer needs? What the customer says he wants? Or why the customer says he wants it? This chart I think helps illustrate this idea of the customer's perspective of value. There's 3 graphs or 3 bars on the graph: cost, price, and value. Hopefully we all understand the first 2, cost and price, right? You take the price you charge, subtract your cost to provide that, and you get your profit. Basic math. By the way, if you don't have profit in your business, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. But there's a second profit on this graph. If you look at the value created for the customer and subtract the price that they pay, you get their profit, the customer's profit. Notice on this graph, the customer's profit here is twice as high as your profit. Now, I'm not saying it has to be 2x. I think 2 or 3x is a minimum. It could be a lot higher. And by the way, the higher it is, the easier it is for you to justify the price that you're paying or that you're charging. But we have to keep the customer's profit top of mind. If you focus on the customer's profit, they will take care of your profit. Now, I want to just give you some quick ideas of how we create value. And this is kind of based on 4 verbs, and there's more, but this is just a quick idea. You can increase revenue, profit, or growth. Hopefully you realize that just because you increase revenue doesn't mean you'll increase profit. You could actually reduce profit if your costs go up, but you can increase all 3 of those things. You can reduce costs, reduce human error, reduce risk. I think risk is one of the best things that as professionals we can do. We can assume risk. We can be like an insurance company. You can improve customer service, employee morale, or product quality. Or you can create a business strategy. You can create a workflow or a process. You can even create a brand. Now, I could unpack all of these, but hopefully you can see just from these few examples, we create a lot of value just through our knowledge and expertise. You discover value by asking great questions. Again, feel free to share this on Twitter @ArtOfValue. You discover value by asking great questions. So let me show you some great questions you can ask. By the way, when you're having a conversation with a customer and you're asking great questions, I call that a value conversation. Why is now the right time to do this and not 6 months ago? This is a timing question that will uncover all sorts of things. One time I asked this question and the response I got was, well, we've been waiting for a year to get the budget. All right, let me get this straight. You've been waiting a year? People won't wait 5 minutes in a drive-through. And you've been waiting a year? Why have you waited a year? Why was it worth waiting 12 months to get the money for this? That led me to the value. What is going to happen if you do not do this project? This is the cost of doing nothing or the status quo. There is a cost. Customers don't think about it, so we have to educate them. But there is a price to pay, pardon the pun, to stay where you are. And then 3, who's going to sign the proposal? This is called finding the economic buyer. Who is the person who can say yes to this, and if they say yes, you get money? That's what we're talking about. You need to have a conversation with that person. And I don't have the time on this session to go into why it's so important to talk to the economic buyer and how to get to them and how do you work with a gatekeeper and all of that. But this question will at least help uncover who that is so you can begin to try to engage that person directly. I want to share a quick story that illustrates this value created. In my software business, we did a custom solution, custom software for an attorney. And this particular attorney was helping employees who had been paid illegally, meaning their wages had not been calculated according to federal law. He was trying to help them recover wages. And in this case, what we learned was there were like 700 employees who had all been shorted each week. So 52 weeks a year for the last 3 years. In general, they had been shorted, anywhere from $200 to $400 per week. You start doing the math on that, you can see this was a multi-million-dollar settlement. And the system we created put our customer in a position to go into the negotiation. He could play with the numbers in real time, and basically he was in a position to say, here's what they should be owed, but we'll take, 30% cut if we can sell it now or something like that. That's huge value. And I found that out by asking value questions. So step 3, create options. Once you believe you create value and you understand value from the customer's perspective, then you want to offer them choices. You see this at a coffee shop. They'll offer a small, medium, or large, or in a drive-through. You start paying attention. Almost everything is offered in threes. We see it all the time online with SaaS software and online products. What do you usually include in your proposal? Is it the number of hours and your hourly rate, a fixed price, or a fixed scope of work, or do you actually offer choices to help the customer make a decision? I want to quickly tell you about a subscription form that was published by Economist Magazine. This comes out of a book by Dan Ariely called Predictably Irrational. Dan Ariely is a behavioral economist. He took the subscription form and ran a couple tests. You'll notice the first option is a 1-year subscription. This is an online subscription for $59. The second option is a print subscription for $125, or the third option is print and online for $125. So notice the price on the second and third options is the same. So you would think, well, the middle one's useless. Let's just get rid of it. Well, Dan Ariely actually is a professor, and so he tests it with his students. So the prices, $59, $125, and $125. When he gave all three options to 100 students, 84 picked the combo option, the print and online. 16 picked online only. Fortunately, these were smart students. Nobody picked just print. But when he took away the middle option, the print-only option, the results reversed. 68% picked online, 32% the combo option. So what this tells us is we don't know what something is worth. We need to be able to make comparisons, and that's one of the reasons choices are so powerful. You would think that middle option is useless, but as you can see, it actually helped customers make a better decision. Now, when you take those numbers and you look at revenue, you can see that when he offered 3 options, it was $11,000. When he offered 2, it was only $8,000. So there's a 33% difference in revenue on the upside. That's how powerful choices are. Steve Major says, value pricing can change your business. Value pricing plus options can change your life. Here's an example of how options impacted one of my coaching customers. Chris Farman is an accountant who specializes in craft breweries. I keep insisting that he and I need to go on site together. It hasn't happened yet. But Chris offered some options, and this is a screenshot from a Facebook chat. And the bottom line is he offered a proposal with options. He made $30K versus $16K. He told me if he had done it his way, he would have only made $16K. But because he offered options and the customer picked a higher option, he made almost double. Here's what happens when you offer options. The question changes from will I work with you to how will I work with you? This is the strategy that I was talking about earlier when I said it increases the likelihood of a yes by 50%. When you offer only one choice, There's only two answers, yes or no, 50-50. When you offer 3, all of a sudden there's 3 yeses and 1 no. So it's 75% to yes, 25% to no. This is the shift. Will I work with you becomes how will I work with you? Now, I don't have time to unpack all of these T's, but these are some of the different ways you can offer options. And if you listen to the podcast, we talk about how do you use these 8 T's to create options. Rather than go through these due to time, I'm just going to share a story with you about how I used options. We had a customer that was the marketing department for a large retail brand. If I mentioned the name, you would know it. Even though you're in the UK and I'm in the US, you would know this brand. I sat down with their VP of IT. We had been working with them for a couple of years on an hourly basis, and they came to us and said they wanted to put us on retainer. The system that we supported and developed managed all the digital assets for their online store, images, copy, etc. The VP had bigger fish to fry. He had bigger systems. He did not have time to deal with this. And so what was important to him was 2 things. Number one, he never heard about the system. If he did not hear anything about it in a month, that was a good month. It meant we were taking care of it. Nobody was complaining. 2, he didn't even want to have to manage it. He did not want his internal team managing the project. So I knew that us not only doing project management for our team, but for his team was valuable. So I offered 3 options. The bottom option included no project management. And the short version is he picked the highest option. At the end of the conversation, his response to the proposal was, wow, I didn't know it was going to cost that much. I've got to go get more money. That's the power of options. Step 4 is to actually start pricing. Now you'll notice it's the 4th step, not the 1st step. But now that you have believed you create value, you have discovered value from the customer's perspective, you offered them choices, now you're in a position to actually start pricing. And the type of pricing that I'm talking about creates high ROI for the customer and high profit for you. So how do you currently price your services? Is it A, you multiply your hours by your hourly rate? Hopefully you guys are noticing a theme by now. You offer a fixed price using an hourly estimate, or you set a price using the customer's ROI. Pricing is the best lever you have to impact your income. Again, you can tweet this at Art of Value. Pricing is the best lever you have to impact your income. And it's true. You can only reduce costs so far, but even a 1% increase in price can result in as much as a 10% increase in net revenue. And by the way, that statistic is from big Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 brands. For people in professional services, almost every dollar that you increase your price should go straight to the bottom line because we're selling outcomes based on our services and experience. Matt Riopel says, pricing covers a multitude of sins, meaning if you price well and you price high so you have margin, you can cover having to rework something. You can cover making a mistake. You can cover something that got omitted and still be able to include it because you want to serve the customer, and because of the price they're paying you, you don't have any problem doing that. Ron Baker, who is, in my opinion, kind of the godfather of value pricing, says value is subjective, pricing is contextual, meaning value is different for every single customer. If I'm providing software services to 2 printing businesses, they're both going to perceive the value of what we're doing differently. And because they perceive it differently, the price should be contextual. I should offer different prices to each customer because it's not the same situation. Again, a 1% increase in price can lead to as much as a 10% improvement in net profit. So here's a quick tool you can use to help you with pricing. If you created 3 options, then you can use this pricing matrix. You'll notice we list the options down the side, and then across the top, I've got 3 words: baseline, amazing, and miracle. You're not just going to come up with 3 prices, you're going to come up with 9. And then from those 9, you're going to pick 3. For each option, you're going to decide, what is my baseline price? What is the minimum I would accept for this option to do the work? If I get a dime less, I'm not doing it. amazing. What is the price you'd really like to be getting most of the time? It's an amazing price. You should normally be getting an amazing price. By the way, an amazing price implies an amazing profit. You should be getting not just a baseline profit, but an amazing profit most of the time. And then what's a miracle? What is the price that if you got that, you would go outside and scream, jump up and down. You'd look like a raving lunatic if somebody posted the video on Facebook because you were so excited. When you come up with these three prices for each option, then you can decide, okay, well, I want to offer the amazing for option 1 and 2, but I want to offer the miracle for option 3. Or maybe I want to get kind of weird and I want to do the baseline for option 1, the miracle for option 2, and the amazing for option 3. Until you start trying to price things the same thing 3 times, you're not going to be truly pricing. This forces you to really think about things in a different frame. One of my coaching customers had this happen. He's Jim Medina, who is a custom software developer who does similar to what I do. And the feedback he provided was that after he presented the proposal, number one, the client improved it in 20 minutes, but the one sale improved his annual revenue by nearly 35%. Now, not everybody has that impact on one deal, but it is possible. And it's possible because you start pricing. So I want to offer you 7 value questions that you can use in a conversation. What I've done is I have taken a value conversation, broke it down into 7 categories, and I've given you what I think is the best question for each of those. And you can download that. You just have to go to artofvalue.com/remote-conf. CONF, that's short for remote conference. artofvalue.com/remote-conf. And that is my gift to you to help you get started with your value conversation. So with that, I'll pass it back over to Patty and Ann.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kirk. That was such incredible information. A lively chat, people really getting a lot of value in it. So we really appreciate that. Ant has a couple of questions, and especially since, he's the reason we invited you here, I'm going to pass it over to Ant to ask his question.
Thanks, Patty. Yeah, thanks, Kurt. That was brilliant. So my question, and I've wanted to ask you this question for about nearly a year now. I first heard you on a podcast. Is relating to intangible value and tangible value. A lot of the time when I hear about value pricing, the guidance is suggesting that we need to identify a tangible value to the customer. And that will be often something like, is this, I think a lot of the examples we hear are things like, right, I'm building a website for the customer. And a lot of the examples are things like the website, the customer doesn't actually want a website, they actually want more traffic or more sales or more leads. So the tangible value there is that by delivering a new website to that customer, they're going to increase their sales, sell more products, whatever it is that we're achieving. And you can tie a financial value to that quite easily. So with what I think a lot of, for myself and a lot of the audience who is here today, we build, e-learning courses or training solutions. And whilst all training needs to have a return on investment, it's extremely difficult to measure that. And I would say 99% of the time when I speak to potential clients, they don't have any idea of how much tangible value is going to be generated by delivering this training course. And to try and get into that is almost impossible. So I think you mentioned, sorry, this is a really long question, but you mentioned in the podcast that you actually thought intangible value, which is things like the customer, how they perceive the product that you're designing for them and how it makes them feel and how it looks in front of their manager and how it looks for their customers. That's often more important than the tangible value. And I just wondered if you could explain that in a bit more detail to help people like me who are trying to sell an e-learning course to a company, but I can't tie any financial value to that thing that I'm selling them.
All right. So I think the question you're asking is, how do I value something that's intangible?
That's exactly what I said.
I actually had the opportunity to ask that question of a friend of mine, Ray Edwards. It's episode 32 of the podcast. And his first response was, well, you still have to do it. And it's probably going to be an educated guess. And this is one of the things we've got to get comfortable with is pricing. A lot of us in professional services, accountants like numbers that balance, lawyers like the law because it tells you what's right and wrong. Developers like code because it either runs or it doesn't. We're all binary in a lot of professional services. We have to get comfortable with the area of judgment is how I would describe it. Our intuition. You have to learn to trust yourself. But let's take something that is intangible. So, for example, we're going to rebrand a company or create a brand for a company. All right. Well, is that a startup? Is this one person who literally set out their freelancer shingle yesterday? Or is this a company that's been in business for 3 years that has multiple $1 million in sales? Now, those two examples may seem extreme, but I think it illustrates the point. You can tell the value that we're going to create for the freelancer is going to be worth a lot less than the brand we're going to create for that company, right? So you're going to get a perception. Let's say that the outcome of this is going to be better employee morale. Well, what does that do? Well, it makes people happy where they work. They're happy at work. They're probably happier at home. If they're happy at work, there's probably not going to have turnover. If they're happier at home, they're probably going to do better work. And so you can just kind of think through this. Now, can I put a dollar amount on that? Not necessarily directly, but I can think about it in ranges. And you have to get comfortable with making those judgments. Ultimately, all pricing is a judgment. Troy Dean, who was another guest I had on the show, I loved his definition of pricing. He said all pricing is made up. It's just made up. We got to get comfortable with it being our intuition, with it being a judgment. And by the way, if you're going to wait around until you get it right, you're going to be waiting until you're dead. You got to put a price on it, do the work, learn from it. And by the way, we use this phrase, leaving money on the table. We always leave money on the table. We're just trying to leave less. Okay? So I can't tell you, how do I take an intangible and put a number on it? You get comfortable using your judgment. That's the short answer.
Okay, that's a brilliant answer. Thank you.
And it takes a little bit of the pressure off when you say, if you're waiting to get it right, you'll be waiting till you're dead. Like, okay, I feel a little bit less pressure. It's like, it's that revolving. You're always learning. I really like that a lot. Yeah. Another question that Ant had was about, should we have the highest priced option first or last? Do you have any thoughts on when you're providing options, in what order?
I do. So when I first started offering options, I would always present the low option first and work my way up. That kind of seems intuitive, but again, like many things in business and life, the best things are counterintuitive. I always present the highest option first. And one of my mentors in this, he challenged me on this. I tried it. I didn't fully believe it, and so it didn't go well, and so I went back to doing it the lowest first. But when I fully committed to doing it, and I fully believed in the highest option, and I was proud of it, and I was excited to talk about it, and I knew it was going to create the most value, and yes, I deserve every dollar that I put the price on that. When I was there, it works great because I'm presenting to the customer the most complete solution, the best value they can receive. This represents, at the moment, probably the max I think that we can do together. Why wouldn't I want to present that first? And then, I'll offer a middle or a lower option where we pull stuff out so they get a lower price. But yes, I start with the best first.
Yeah. Great advice. And then another question, you were kind of talking about that abundance mentality, which I love. That's, such a, you've got to believe in yourself before I think, anybody else, like a company can, like you said, they can sense that. Do you have any resources or things books you've looked at or, maybe podcasts, or how did you get to the abundance mentality?
So I can give you 3 ideas for increasing your abundance mentality. And certainly there are books you can read, and I'll offer a couple here in a second. But the first thing I think you need to do is you need to get feedback. And there's kind of 2 or 3 people or groups of people you can get feedback from. First of all, I would go to your peers. I would take 3 of your proposals, sit down with somebody who does something similar to what you do. It doesn't mean you're a copywriter. They have to be a copywriter. You might be a copywriter and they're a developer, but show them your proposals. Talk about what you think the value is created and then get their feedback. Most of the time, they're going to see more value than you do. Second, ask your customers. And obviously, you can only do this with customers that you have really strong relationships with, but ask them, especially 6 or 12 months after the project, what are the results? Again, you will probably be surprised at what they tell you. And then the other fun thing is come back to a proposal you did a year ago and ask yourself, well, what was the value that was created? Now, notice I presented it in this order. Start with your peers, start with your friends, then go to your customers once you've built up some confidence. And then once your customers have helped increase that, then ask yourself on something that was about a year ago. So those are the 3 ways. Again, just asking for feedback on what were the results, what was the outcome.
Yeah, that's great. Great ideas. And sorry, I cut you off, Kirk. What was the last thing?
Well, I was just going to say, you kind of asked for resources on this. One book that I'm currently reading, and I'm not all the way through it yet, but it's by Sally Hogshead. In fact, I'm probably going to have to look up the exact title, but it's about fascination. And really, really good book. And she actually has an assessment. And I'm actually looking forward to taking it myself, but it actually helps you understand not what are your strengths, but yes, fascination advantage. I think that's it. What do other people see as your strength? How do other people view you? And that's a great way to look at it, because ultimately what you want is you want to understand the customer's perception of your value. So, or the value you can create. So that's one book that I would recommend.
That's, and I've actually taken the Fascination Advantage, the quiz that you were talking about, like how you show up in the world. So I haven't read the book yet, but but she has like an email subscription list. Basically, you take the Fascination Advantage little quiz that she has. It talks about how you show up in the world, and then she sends you customized emails with little tips directly related to your specific, type of, like you said, it's not about strengths, it's more about how you're showing up. So it's really interesting.
Yes. Really good book. And I'll probably have more to say about it on the podcast once I finish it. Yeah.
Yeah. And, the other tip that you were talking about in the beginning, about how you can, kind of, someone that does something similar to what you do, or like let them kind of review, statement of works or things like that, proposals that you want to send out. So just for everyone on the call, I mean, if you are not on Slack already, definitely get on there. I've sent out my own and had people review. And so that's kind of what the community is for. Just kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. So if anybody needs help with that, we're on Slack and we can help each other. And I know a lot of us are happy to share our thoughts. Sean had a question about, in your first year, were you really kind of working with by yourself? Were you working in a team? What did that look like, kind of your first year of doing your own thing?
So I should clarify, that was simply the first year of this business model. That was not the first year in business. I was in business for 15 years before I even started to implement value pricing. So I know all the ins and outs of the billable hour. I know how hard it is to keep up with your time. I know how you make it up after the fact. I know how you hope the customer pays. I know everything there is to know about the billable hour because I did it for 15 years. Now, to the question, was I doing it solo or with a team? I was doing it with a team. We were about 6 or 7 people at that point. And so, yes, I did it not just with myself, but with a team. And by the way, value pricing scales. Sometimes I'll hear feedback, particularly from large companies. We're talking, people with companies with hundreds of employees. Bottom line is there's examples out there of companies with hundreds, even thousands of employees that are using this business model and they're doing fine. So yes, it scales.
Awesome. Good. And that's a very good question. So you had mentioned like the 3 different ways of pricing, hourly, fixed pricing, and then also value pricing. I'm kind of interested just to see what the group is doing. So I'm just going to kind of put out in the chat, how do you currently price? Do you currently, A, hourly, B, fixed price, or C, value pricing, or a mixture, So like James was saying, depends on the client. I'm definitely trying to get, more into the value pricing, but I'm definitely a mix of A and B at the moment. Yeah, so it looks like a lot of hourly right now. So we definitely have a lot to learn about this topic. Is anybody interested in speaking up, like maybe some struggles that you currently have with what maybe holds you back from the shift, or any thoughts? It's fine if not. We have more questions that we'll get to. Just checking to see if anybody has any thoughts they'd like to chat about. All right, not everyone talk at once. Back over to Ant for some questions. You guys.
I feel less guilty about hogging Kirk now if you're not getting loads of questions.
Yeah, there you go.
I just wanted to go back to Kirk's slide about the 8 T's of value pricing. I think it started with tailoring, talent, technology, and I'll have to review the video afterwards to remember the rest. But is there any more information you can provide about those different T's and how we can learn more about those?
Sure. And normally I would unpack that slide more, but I didn't do it because we had about a 30-minute time frame, and that tends to make that presentation go more in the 45-minute range. But let me go ahead and share that slide, and I'll kind of go back to it and just kind of talk about it.
That would be great.
So I'm not going to go into presentation mode again, but at least you can see the slide, and this will give you a chance to capture these either in a screenshot or however you want to do that. So the 8 T's: tailoring, customization. Many of us in professional services could create 3 options alone just based on the degree of tailoring or customization. In custom software, my goodness, we use the word custom to describe what we do. So most of the options I create are based around different degrees of customization. You can also do it based on talent. Do they get to work directly with you? Do they work with a junior or a sub or whatever? Technology. Again, in software, technology is very easy because we can do it on last year's technology versus this year's technology, or we can do it on simpler technology versus more complex, more feature-rich terms, payment terms. This is one where my recommendation is always to ask for 100% up front. And by the way, I get it 70% of the time. But you can offer a special price at 100% up front, a little bit higher price at 50-50, or you can come up with some other option. A lot of accountants like to do this by pricing it or charging per month. So whatever the price is, they will then divide by 12 and then just draft that amount each month for 12 months. Timing, FedEx is the one that taught us about timing. Their slogan is, when it absolutely positively has to get there overnight. We all know what it's like to pay a rush fee with a printer or other things of that nature. 2 concepts you need to understand. 1, something delivered faster is more valuable. 2, something is more valuable to the customer before you deliver it. Those 2 things are huge, and both those play into timing. Training or education. One of my mentors says, you have a daughter, would you prefer that she gets sex training or sex education? So I tend to prefer the word educate. How are you going to educate? Is it going to be online? Is it going to be a written book? Is it going to be screenshots? Is it going to be in person? How long? How many sessions? How many people? You get the idea. Travel, or as I prefer to think of it, as expenses. One of the things that I see so many professionals do, let's say I have to travel somewhere. Let's say, here's my fee, plus you're going to pay for my airfare, my hotel, my car, my meals, and they'll actually send them receipts and get reimbursed. No. First of all, that nickel and dimes the customer. Second, the customer doesn't care. You care, but they don't care. They just care, did you get there or not? So if you want to charge $5,000, we're all smart people. We can use the internet to come up with an estimation of travel expenses. If travel is going to be an estimated $1,500, then the price to the customer is $6,500, including everything. By the way, it makes you look professional when you say it just includes everything. You ever been on a vacation that was all inclusive? It's that type of mentality. And then finally, transformation. Each option should create different levels of value, and just that alone provides the ability. So whenever I need to create options, I go to these. And there will be times where I'm not sure, but I go look at these 8 T's and I come up with ideas about how to create options. And by the way, we all love to be creative in our craft, especially those of us that are in kind of more creative fields, design, development, writing, etc. Why not apply that same creativity, creating options? I actually enjoy creating options for other people. That may be the most fun thing I do, is helping people brainstorm and come up with new options. So there you go.
That is, wow. I mean, I'm going to watch this so many times, Kirk. Even just the special pricing at 100% up front, and it all, including everything. Instead of nickel and diming. I mean, you turn it around. You don't want to be nickel and dime. So people, and we think it's because we're saving them money. We're like, we're just charging you exactly what it's costing us or whatever. And that's people just want to know, what is the price? Just tell me. That's what I want to pay. I don't want like all these crazy things all over the place. That's a lot of mental energy to expend. Going back to the 100% up front, this is something I know that a lot of us are a little timid to do, but I do know that Ant shared on Slack that he actually did this with a client recently, and so I thought that was incredible. So Ant, maybe could you just tell us a little bit about doing that? I know that was kind of new for you as well.
Yeah, well, I'm really fascinated by that slide, Kirk, because those 8 T's, I wasn't aware of the other 7, so I've tried one, and I've tried it a few times, but just recently I've been successful with that. And what I did was, what I've always done is charge 50% up front as a deposit to allow me to schedule time into my diary to do the work, and then I took 50% after the project was complete. And what I tried to do this time was actually, I said to the client, look, you can pay 50% deposit, 50% on completion, or if you pay me 100% up front, I'll do you a 10% discount. And, the only time I've tried it, they loved it straight away and they paid it up front. And I obviously just increased my whole price by 10% anyway. So there was no discount. There was, they saw it as a discount, but it was no less money for me. So yeah, I've seen that work. So I'm really excited to be creative and learn more about those other 7 T's, because I don't think I've fully thought those through, and it'd be really interesting to learn more about those.
So a couple of additional comments I'll add. Number one, I would change the vocabulary and not use the word discount. I would use the phrase, if you pay 100% up front, then you'll save X and name the number. Or if you pay 100% up front, I'll offer you a special price or a premium price. I love the term premium price, but I try to not use the word discount because, number one, I don't discount. Okay. I create incredible value, and I'm not about to discount any value I create at all. It's a mindset kind of thing. The other thing about 50-50, and by the way, that's my fallback position. I ask for 100%. My next fallback will be 50-50, but 50% is due when they sign the proposal. I mean, we won't even start work. You sign the proposal, we hadn't got paid? Nope, I'm not doing it. Once the money hits my bank account, that's when we start. But then 2, I don't tie the additional 50% to any deliverable or completion date. The additional 50% is due in 30, 60, 45 days, whatever works for you. I'm not going to tie my livelihood to your schedule, because 9 times out of 10, the delays in a project are on the customer. And by the way, here's a couple other advantages of charging 100% up front. Number one, well, it really boils down to one advantage, just 2 perspectives. Being fully committed. You've probably heard the phrase, if you think about breakfast, the I forget that. Anyway, the pig's committed to breakfast. The chicken's just invested, but the pig's committed. You understand the difference? The chicken's still alive. The pig's dead. The pig 100% committed. When you pay, when you charge 100% up front, the customer is fully committed. It actually puts pressure on them to finish the project. And sometimes, and I'm not saying we use that as leverage, it's a mental thing. You may never have to say anything, but once they paid 100%, they're fully committed. But guess what? It also makes me fully committed, because once I've been paid 100% up front, number one, it creates a sense of obligation or duty for me to deliver and actually over deliver, because I've got money in my bank account that, quote, I haven't earned. And this is another mental thing. But two, it also gets the money conversation out of the way. And by the way, you can never fully serve a customer until you have gotten the full money conversation out of the way. And how do you get it out of the way? You've been paid 100%.
Great advice. Okay, so we've got 3 minutes. We have a couple of other quick questions, and then we'll close on time. So just very quickly, 1 second. Michael is wanting to know, are there certain types of indicators that you that this is a client that would go for valued pricing versus one that wouldn't go for it? Like, do you know, like when you're talking to a customer, do you see some signs that you're like, this is not someone that I would work with because they just want to pay like a smaller fee, like just per hour or whatever?
So I don't want to sound like a smart aleck, but the way I know the difference is the ones who sign are going for it, the ones who don't won't. Now, I understand what you're asking, and I don't want to be too coy with the question. I want to take it serious, but that's the only way I do business. So let me back up.
Yeah.
I don't think you can value price some customers and hourly bill others. Now, when you're making a transition, you'll have to, because you're going to start with value pricing with new customers. You're going to transition existing customers over time. So there will be a period. For us, it was a year where we did both. But the only way we did hourly billing was with existing projects, existing customers, and we looked for opportunity to move them over. So I don't think you can operate a business under two business models. You're dual-minded, and that just doesn't work. So for me, it's the only way I will do business. And so the customers that are going to do business with me will do business that way. But yes, I can tell very early, because the first conversation I have with a customer is a value conversation. Okay? I don't have a preliminary conversation about what they want to do and ignore why they want it. Now, you can't completely ignore what they want. You have to acknowledge that you understand they want CRM, they want a website, they want e-commerce, they want a brochure, yada, yada. You have to understand that, but then you've got to ask why. And so in that first conversation, I'm going to be asking questions. Very likely, I'm asking questions that nobody else has asked. In fact, occasionally I'll have customers go, why are you asking these questions? And my answer is, because I'm not just going to bill what you want because you say you want it. If you could do this yourself, you would have already done it. I'm the expert. So let me be the expert. Let me ask you questions, because what you think you need to solve this problem may not be the best solution. You may not even be solving the right problem, right? You're not getting customers, so you think you need to fix the look and feel of your website. No, dude. What you need to do is you need to start using email marketing, or you need to start doing SEO or whatever. It's that type of thing. So how do I know a customer is going to go with it? Because that's how I do business. I'm fully committed like the pig at breakfast. And if they're not a good fit, they'll just walk away.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm fine with that because I don't want bad customers.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Okay. We're at the top of the hour, but I know that there's probably going to be some people that have other questions and want maybe one-on-one help. Like, do you offer that if somebody wants one-on-one help? How do they contact you? Sure.
So the best way, if you're interested in one-on-one help, is go to artofvalue.com/contact. Send us an email. Basically what I'll do is I'll set up a time to visit with you online. We'll do Skype or Zoom or something like that. I just want to find out what's your situation, find out if I can help you, and then if I can, you can expect I'll probably offer you some options.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much for spending your hour and your wisdom and sharing all of that with us, Kirk. Everyone, if we could just give Kirk some chat love or some clapping, thank you so much. I mean, this was incredible, and I know it gave me a lot to think about, and I think many of us have said we're going to watch it over and over. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you all for inviting me. It's always fun to talk to our friends across the ocean.
Well, and we are all over. I'm in Denver, Colorado. We've got people.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we are all over. So
now I have a place to stay when I go skiing.
Exactly. Yes, you do. I'm right downtown. So, just right up the mountain.
Cool. Well, it's nice to know that you're international. So wish everybody a great morning, day, evening, wherever you are.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. That's right, Christy. I'll give you some options of where to stay.
That'll
Okay.
work.
Have a great week, everybody. See you next
Thanks
week.
so much,
Same time,
Kirk.
same place.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.